All right, welcome in. Rip City Beat here. Wow, some breaking news as we get started here. It's kind of been going on probably since yesterday afternoon when Stein kind of broke some news about Fultz maybe heading over to Philadelphia to do a workout for them, and a possible trade between Philadelphia and Boston for the number one for number three, plus a couple other pieces. And Fultz went over there, and sounds like we got a deal going down. Fultz worked out, and it sounds like it's pretty much a done deal. It'll be finalized tomorrow.
Is that a report in the past hour or so? I haven't been keeping up with it.
Yeah. It was actually just tweeted out. Let's see. Yeah, Woj is saying the Sixers going to send the 17 number 3 overall pick, the 18 pick from LA will go to the Boston, and then a protected pick from the Kings, which it's an unprotected pick to Philadelphia, but it sounds like they're going to add some protections onto it and send it over to Boston. So sounds like it's pretty much a done deal.
Did it say if the Lakers pick was unprotected?
Yeah, it says that it's unprotected.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I was supposed to go down to Summer League on the 10th, and I saw that Portland was playing the Celtics on the 9th, and I'm a Washington fan, so I wanted to see Fultz play for the Celtics in Summer League against the Blazers, and now I'm not going to be able to see that happen, so that sucks. But I like it for both teams. It'll be interesting to watch two number one picks play their rookie seasons together with Simmons and Fultz, and I like it for Boston because I think that they can trade that Laker pick or that Sacramento pick or both for an all-star and still keep a high pick in this year's draft instead of just going and trading one for somebody like Butler or George. So I like it for both teams.
Yeah, there's been over the last 24 hours after it kind of started to break that there was a possibility of this pick being traded. It's floated out there that they're probably going to convey maybe this number 3 or part of the maybe the Laker pick or something like that for Butler and try to get another guy and then add maybe sounds like Griffin or someone in free agency, and that's a pretty potent lineup for the Celtics.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, they have enough cap space to go sign someone like a Gordon Hayward, and then maybe, if they trade a Crowder or Bradley, they might be able to go after somebody like Ibaka. They'll still have like $20 million. So they'll definitely be players in free agency for sure.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Avery Bradley would have been a great pickup if Philadelphia could have got him tossed in there too, which kind of would have made sense given the fact that probably Boston, if they want to max cap space, they want to maybe get rid of him, because Avery Bradley would have been a great two guard. He can shoot from the outside, play defense, and he would have been a great pickup to kind of go with that young team.
Oh, he would have been perfect because Fultz is big enough to guard the 1 and 2, and Bradley's a little undersized, but he's a great defender to put on the other team's best guard. It would have been really interesting to watch a backcourt of Fultz and Bradley. But I think with not getting Fultz anymore, Boston is looking to keep Bradley and re-sign him next summer, even though it's going to end up with them paying a lot of luxury tax, especially if they sign someone this summer. I think I was saying before this trade that they were probably going to take Fultz and then let Avery Bradley get paid $25 million next year in free agency and slot Fultz in at starting guard next to Isaiah Thomas, but it looks like they're probably going to keep Bradley for a few years now that they traded that one away and won't get Fultz.
Yeah, and it sounds like they brought another. I think they brought Smith in again for a second workout. So people are even talking maybe they may even move down a little bit more, or make a stretch for. I believe it was Smith who they were bringing in for a second workout. So really interesting. It sounds like draft. We're a week out, and the number one pick is probably already going to be traded. So it's probably going to be a lot more movement before the week is out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's get on to Blazers. We've covered pick number 15. We covered pick number 20. Now we're up at pick 26, and then at the end of it, we're gonna kind of do a little bit of reaching and see if the Blazers did try to make a move up in the draft, maybe a couple of players that they'd be targeting. So let's go ahead and start out with one of the guys that we've talked about a little bit, kind of in some of the other stuff that we've done, Jonah Bolden. He's a big guy. He's slotted to go around 46 right now, and he's kind of it's kind of surprised me with his potential that he's so far down on a lot of these mock drafts. He is a 7-footer, so he's got a lot of skill. He's going to be kind of an outside player. And it's kind of in that same Pozednik, kind of that mold where he could play the 4, like a stretch 4. He could play the 5. So he's kind of in that same mold. A lot of the things that are questions about him is desire. How much does he really want to put in? How much work does he want to put in? Is he going to be able to reach his potential? He is definitely one of those guys who has the potential to be a sleeper, especially a second round pick that he's projected now. It could be a little bit of a reach for Portland at 26, but it's definitely a guy that Portland should be targeting.
Yeah, I definitely think this is the guy this year that all mock drafts have wrong. I think he'll go top 35, and there's beat writers coming out lately that are saying he's a lottery talent, and a couple of NBA GMs have been talking about him as a first-round pick, even though he's slotted to go mid-second by most mock drafts. I just think that his weaknesses are physicality and maybe basketball IQ, but I don't think those are things that will really hold him back. I think the lack of physicality coming in to the league is, for a 21-year-old, it isn't that big of an issue for me because he's going to put on weight when he gets into an NBA strength and conditioning program, and he's going to learn how to defend and get in a stance and stuff like that in NBA level. I just think those are things that are easy to fix, and I think that NBA GMs tend to take somebody being too skinny into account, like with the Blazers and Durant back in 2007, how, him being 200 pounds and 6'11" was a red flag when it shouldn't have been. And Bolden's he's not the most physical guy, but he can really shoot the ball, and he's really quick and agile, and he's 6'10". He's really skilled for his height, and the shots that I saw him hit when he was playing overseas last year were deep threes. He definitely is completely comfortable shooting from NBA range, and I just think that holding his lack of physicality against him and saying he should be a second-round pick because he didn't bang down on the low post last year when he played overseas is a reach, because he has a ton of talent, and usually at the end of the first round, those are the guys that have a chance to really do something. There's a guy that has the skills that he does.
Yeah, I really think that he is one of those guys that Portland definitely needs to take a look at, and they may not even have to make a pick at 26. They may be able to get a second rounder. Philadelphia now has 4 second rounders, so that they could maybe make a reach for him with a second rounder. Pick one up from one of the teams that has multiple second rounders. So it may not be a 26, but that maybe it's definitely someone that Portland may be looking at in the second round, or maybe even with that 26 if they feel that he's the right player for them right there. So let's go on to go ahead.
He honestly though, he seems like a Spurs player. He seems like a guy that would go at 29 and would just end up phenomenal for the Spurs, and that's what I'm scared of. That's what I think will happen if Portland passes on him, is he'll end up a 10-time All-Star for the Spurs or something like that. You know how they find those guys.
He'll replace Aldridge in a few years.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next one, DJ Wilson. Why don't you tell us a little bit about DJ Wilson?
DJ Wilson is a lot like Jonah Bolden in that he's really agile, and he has decent size for a power forward. He's 6'10" with like a 7'3" wingspan, and he can really shoot the ball. And the biggest knocks on him are, again, physicality, and maybe his motor isn't that great. Maybe he's not that good of a rebounder because he isn't strong enough to box guys out and hold guys off of the boards. But I think that shouldn't be held against him, because I really think that when you get these guys in an NBA strength and conditioning program and they put on strength and get more confident and with their bodies and with their strength, it won't hold them back at the NBA level, especially with the way the league's going, where skilled big men are kind of becoming the norm nowadays. I don't think that not being able to bang against guys in the low post and really like lay the lumber on a guy in a box out is really going to hold these guys back. I love Wilson's shot. He's a great shooter, and he's he can dribble the ball a bit, and that's the thing. He's not going to end up like a Myers Leonard, where if he doesn't have an open three, he's stuck out top with the ball. He can attack closeouts and get to the rim, and I really like him as a cutter too, which is, he kind of reminds me of Mo Harkless on some of his cuts, just how sharp he cuts, and he moves pretty well without the ball, in my opinion. I think that'd be a great fit next to Nurkic and next to Lillard and McCollum.
Yeah, it comes from Michigan, so it comes from an established program. It's I don't really know as much about him. I didn't see very many Michigan games this year, so I can't speak to a lot about it. I've seen some highlight tapes of him. So he does have definitely some upside, but I just haven't seen enough of him to really make a case that, hey, this is someone that they should definitely go out and reach for at this point. So let's move on to next one is one that most people are familiar with from the Oregon Ducks, and that is Jordan Bell. Jordan Bell is forward from, like I said, the University of Oregon. He's kind of one of those Ed Davis kind of players where he's going to need to. He's an energy guy. One of the things that I really like about him is that the way his demeanor when he's on the court, the way he carries himself, he's always giving 110%. With his NCAA tournament, he really was able to shine during that. He was able to show his ability to get up and block shots, finish around the rim. And so he has, his biggest thing is going to be his shot. His shot is pretty flat. He's obviously something that he's working on during this off season, leading up to the draft. So that's definitely something that he's going to have to show that he has the ability to kind of become that stretch four if he's going to find a place in this league. He's going to have to kind of go in the Draymond Green kind of mold where he won't be probably a small ball five, but he's definitely going to have to be a stretch four in order to be able to stick around in the league.
Yeah, it's funny how if Jordan Bell was available at 26 will be a more polarizing pick than 15 or 20. He's from Oregon, from in-state, so, these Oregonians love this guy. I'm from Vancouver, Washington, so I'm not a Duck fan, and I do feel like some people are a little bit biased, but I do see what they like in him. He is a great defender. My biggest question for him is, how well will his defense translate, because he has the tools to block shots and the instincts and the timing. I just wonder if he's going to get in trouble early in the NBA jumping at pump fakes, because that's the one thing that big men learn how to do when they, good NBA bigs is they'll get you off your feet, and if not, they'll power through you. So I want to see how well he is at knowing when to jump and when not to jump.
Yeah, foul trouble becomes, especially with rookies, foul trouble is usually one of the things that limits their ability to stay on the court, especially for a shot blocker like him who, going against less skilled guys in college, he has the ability to get up and, block a lot of those shots, and it's a different game when you get to the NBA. So it will be interesting to see kind of how he is able to translate and kind of how he transform, kind of what he does, because he will definitely have to, change his game. He's not going to be able to, spend as much time down on the block. He's going to have to be able to stretch out, and then be able to. He did have, athletically, he did have, some of the best metrics from the pre-draft camp. So, he definitely has the tools to do that. It's just whether or not he's going to be able to translate that to the NBA. It is definitely kind of a boomer bust, I think, kind of pick. He's either going to adjust and he's going to do very well, or it's going to be he's going to be spending some time over in Europe very, very soon. So that's why I think probably a second-round pick is probably where he should be. But there is some talk about him getting into the later parts of the first round.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit more safer of a pick, in my opinion, just because defense does translate. I don't think he'll be an offensive player. I don't think he has any offensive upside, and that's the thing with me. That's why I like Bolden and Wilson over them, is they have two-way potential, and I don't think that Bell will be shooting jumpers in the NBA. There was clips of him shooting in workouts before the draft where he hit, 6, 7 threes, and I don't think that's going to translate to NBA games because I don't think he has the best form. He shoots kind of flat. He shoots the ball hard. He kind of shoots it from the other side of his body. So I don't think it's something where guys are going to be running at him to stop him from shooting threes, and I don't think he's going to shoot above 30% ever in his career. So I think he'll be a safer pick without much upside because I do think he'll be a good defensive player, but that's it.
All right, so let's move on, and we'll head up to our last of the picks, probably at 26, and that's why don't you tell us a little bit about Semi?
Semi is a tank. It's funny how his name is spelled like semi because he's built like a semi. He's a big dude, and the thing is he's 6'7", but he might have the potential to play some small ball four in a Draymond Green type role. Not offensively, but defensively. He's really athletic. He doesn't have quite the wingspan that Draymond Green does. His wingspan's like 6'10" or something around there. So he is a bit undersized to play the four. But I do like his fit as a small forward because I do think he can shoot the ball. He's not going to be a guy that puts it on the floor. He's not going to be a small forward that's handling the ball at all. But I do like him as kind of like a Mo Harkless in the way that he slashes. He's a good cutter, moves well without the ball. And I do think his range will translate to NBA 3. He does kind of have a higher set point, but I don't think that'll struggle to shoot from a further three-point distance. I just love his defensive potential as a guy that can guard positions 1 through 4 because he's quick enough laterally to contain some guards in the NBA, and then he's 240. I think he's 240 and 6'7", and that's a big dude, and he's not going to get moved when he's defending the low post. Guys aren't going to be able to back him down at all. So I do like his defensive potential and his ability to switch onto guards and guard power forwards.
Yeah, I think he's an interesting prospect. I think right now he's slated kind of in that right around that range. I think Draft Express has him going in about 25. He's a very efficient player. His PER was at 26.8, so and he averaged 19 points and just under 7 rebounds. So he can kind of do a little bit of it all, which is probably something that Portland needs. They're kind of in that, like you said, kind of in that Mo Harkless. I don't know how much pressure he's going to take off of anybody else with ball handling or anything like that. I think that, which is kind of something that Portland needs at this point. So I don't know how much of a fit he would be for Portland to kind of fill in that bench, because that's really, for Portland, that's what they really need right now. Is they need someone who can come in when Lillard or CJ is not on the court. They need someone who can kind of take care of some of that ball handling and creating shots. And I just don't know how much he's going to be able to do that. So unless they address that in another fashion or they make some changes, maybe a trade of Aminu or Harkless or something like that, I just don't know how well he fits with the Blazers long term.
I think he'd fit if he can really translate his shooting, because he did shoot 40% from 3 last year in college. And if he can shoot, 36, 37, 38% from 3 and play defense, that's a 3-and-D guy that the Blazers don't really have, because Crabbe can shoot, but he doesn't really defend. Harkless and Turner can defend, but they don't shoot that great. So I do like his fit. If he can shoot the ball at a above average, good NBA clip, I do like his fit, but that's the biggest question with him, is how good of a shooter is he going to be?
Yeah, but how much time is he and how much run is he going to get if you have four wings in front of him is the problem.
Yeah, but down the line, if you develop him for a couple years and you like the way he's developing down the line, you can trade Crabbe's or Turner's $18 million and slot him in. That's kind of what happened with Crabbe. Is Crabbe didn't play his first 2 years, and then when Matthews left and Batum left, he got slotted into the lineup and he did a good job. So I like him as a guy. You're not going to get a guy that's going to be in the rotation at 26 unless you draft somebody like Jordan Bell, who's ready right away but doesn't have much upside. So I do think you're going to get a project at 26, and I like taking on Ojale as a project that maybe makes Crabbe or Turner expendable a year or two from now.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about maybe potentially moving up in the draft and a couple players that each of us kind of liked for Portland if they were able to make a move. There's been talk about Portland moving up maybe with New York, Mo Harkless involved, and obviously probably pick 15. Also, Minnesota's come up as someone that Portland has contacted about moving up with. So, I'll start with my ultimate would be Tatum out of Duke. He is who I think is probably a top 2 prospect in this draft, and kind of the way things are kind of shifting around. I'm not really sure where he sits at right now as far as kind of where people are going to pick him, because kind of at the beginning he was kind of slotted into that number 4 spot, and with the trade, and you don't really, is Boston, looking to trade that down now? Is Sacramento looking to move up? Kind of what direction are they? Are they going to go with the small forward and the point guard? Are they going to try to put those picks together and try to move up? So I think it kind of leaves a lot of things up in the air, and it kind of sounds like Tatum may be one of those guys who maybe kind of falls through the cracks, and if he somehow makes it down to that 5-6 range, then I think that would definitely be someone that Portland should try to make a run at. If they were able to get up to 7 or 8 and then package another pick or 2 and move up into that 4 or 5 range, then I think he's someone that would. I'd be okay with them losing all 3 picks and maybe a Mo Harkless to move up and get.
I love Tatum. I think he's the best player in this draft because I think he's going to be a 22, 23, 24 point a game scorer. It's hard to project guys as scoring that many points per game, but he really has it all offensively. Mid-range game, shoots with a high set point, so he can shoot over guys easy. And I don't think he got enough of a chance to show his passing at Duke. I think he's a underrated passer coming into the draft, and defensively, he's 6'8", and he's quick laterally. He could be a really good defender guarding shooting guards, small forwards, and power forwards. I love all 3 small forwards at the top of this draft. I love Josh Jackson. I love Isaac. I love Tatum. I think they would be great players to pick up. The consensus is they're going top 6 along with Ball, Fox, and Fultz. And 6th is Orlando, and I don't think we'd be able to trade for their 6th pick because they already have 3 other picks in the draft, so it's not like they're going to want to add 3 picks at the price of their 6th pick. So, but it is a possibility if the Celtics take Dennis Smith, like it's rumored as a possibility, like you were talking about at the start of the show. They brought him in for a second workout, and if they do go with Smith, that means that one of those small forwards will probably fall to 7 in Minnesota, and I think Minnesota is a prime spot to trade up to. If one of those small forwards is available at 7 and Portland can trade their 3 picks up to 7 and take one of them, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Nice. Okay, so it looks like you had a couple of guys. Isaac was one of the other ones, so we kind of covered Isaac and Tatum, the small forwards. One of the guards that you liked, Mitchell. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about Mitchell?
Mitchell reminds me a lot of Avery Bradley in that he's a great defender, and he's a lot bigger than Avery Bradley is. He's only an inch taller. He's only 6'3", but he has a 6'10" wingspan, so he can guard point guards and shooting guards, and I think he would be awesome as a third guard. Behind Lillard and McCollum, he could play 25 minutes a game and just, play next to CJ, move CJ over to point guard, and Mitchell is a good enough ball handler to be a secondary ball handler. I don't think he's a point guard, but he does fit with CJ. And then I love Mitchell at shooting guard next to Lillard because Mitchell can guard the best guard, and you can slot Lillard over onto the weaker of the two. And I just think that offensively he can be a really good player as well because he's quick. He's a good ball handler. I think the biggest thing for him is getting a feel for scoring the ball because he does have the tools. He does have the handles and the quickness and the length and the athleticism to get any shot he wants. I just think that he needs to learn how to change speeds, which CJ McCollum would be a great mentor for him because that's the one thing that CJ does insanely well. And then he reminds me a lot of Lillard, just that 6'3" guard with a pretty good wingspan and quick and athletic. And I think that having Lillard and McCollum mentor him offensively for a couple of years will turn him into a great offensive player to go along with a great lockdown defense. So he's a guy that's slotted to go around, 9th to 12th. So maybe you could trade 15 and 20 or 15 and 26 and get up to maybe Charlotte at 11 and take him. I'd do that because I think he'd be a great person to have as a third guard.
Yeah, that is the one thing about him is that it's not going to cost as much to go get him. Again, my kind of question with him is more of fit and using probably Portland's best asset that they have is to find a backup guard. Obviously, they need more ball handling and they need more creation on offense, but my first would be to go after either a small forward or a power forward to kind of complement the starting lineup, but if you can get him at a decent price and you really do believe that he, is going to be the type of prospect who, long term would make sense, and then, maybe eventually down the road you find out that Lillard and McCollum don't work, then, you might be able to trade McCollum down the road for a piece that, maybe fits that 3 or 4 at a all-star level or something like that. So there is some options when you have a guy like that. I just don't know, unless you think he is going to be a top level talent, I just don't know how you can take the best asset from this offseason and spend it on a guard when that's your best assets already is your 1 and your 2.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do think that it wouldn't be a bad choice because I do think that he could probably play right away, and that would make somebody like Turner or Crabbe expendable next offseason when they'll be easier to trade. So maybe down the line it allows you to get rid of a Turner, and then once if you trade Crabbe as well, you may have a little bit of cap space. I don't know. I just like the flexibility of being able to, because the thing is, if you trade away Turner next year, you probably don't have somebody to fill his shoes. And it's going to be hard to re-sign Nurkic with the luxury tax. So you're probably going to have to get rid of one of Crabbe or Turner down the line, and having somebody that's groomed to fill that role right away would be an easy replacement, and he'll be on a rookie contract. So even if he ends up, being really good, he's still going to be cheap, and he's still going to be somebody great off the bench, and will allow you to re-sign Nurkic without paying a ton of luxury tax. I just like the idea of getting a guard to make things more flexible in the future when it comes to deciding what to do with Turner or Crabbe.
Yep. All right, so one last one, and that is going to be Zach Collins out of Gonzaga. A lot of people talking about Zach Collins, especially coming right after the NCAA tournament and kind of when the draft talk started. Everyone was really, really high on Zach Collins. He's kind of fluctuated kind of throughout this process. He's gone up a little bit. He's gone down a little bit. Seems like he's kind of a little bit down. You don't hear a lot of talk about Collins. It's not one of the picks that everyone's kind of has really high expectations for, but I think everyone thinks he's going to be pretty solid when he gets there, and I think that he can step in pretty quickly and make a difference because he has the tools to be able to play on both sides of the ball. He's going to be able to defensively. He's going to do well. Offensively, he's got some skill set. He didn't really get a chance to show it all that much at Gonzaga, but it looks like he can step outside and hit from range. So he's got an opportunity. And with where Portland is and kind of what they need, we talked about this last time about someone who could play the 4 or the 5. He kind of fits that mold where he could, back up Nurkic and he can play the 4. He can play with Nurkic because of his outside shooting. And defensively, that would be a very good tandem. So I could see where it would make some sense, both of these players coming together, or this player coming together with a guy like Nurkic to have a long-term front court.
As a Gonzaga Bulldog fan, I love Zach Collins. I was bummed when he declared for the draft because I thought Gonzaga had another big run in it next year with him at center because he was great this year for them, only playing like 18 minutes a game because he was behind Shemek Karnowski, but he was still getting 10 points per game. I think he had something like a 30 PER or somewhere close to that. He's just a complete player, and the thing is he didn't really show much rim protection during the year. And when he did, it was just kind of like, okay, he's playing against schools like Pepperdine and, small uh, WAC schools.
Portland.
So yeah, Portland and Portland State. So it's just like, okay, these guards are smaller, not as athletic as big time college guards. So he's blocking these guys because they're, small school players. But he showed he can protect the rim in the Final Four last year. I think he had something like 6 blocks in the semifinal game against South Carolina, going against future NBA players and Thornwell and Dozier. And I think he'll be a good defender in the NBA because he's smart. He knows when to jump. He has good timing protecting the rim. And then offensively, he's a guy that can score in the low post. He's not going to back a guy down, but his footwork is amazing. And his up and under move is one of the best I've seen in a long time in college basketball. And then his shooting, I really think he could be a good NBA three-point shooter. He has a very compact stroke, not much wasted movement, always on balance. I think that he could be just an all-around stud as a defender, as a guy that can get you a bucket in the low post, as a guy that can shoot mid-range and three. He'd just be perfect for this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, and I think that he's pretty ready to go, even though he was only a freshman. I think that he is, you talk about kind of the basketball IQ and physical body. He's definitely going to fill out some more once he gets into a training program in the NBA. But I think that he's ready to kind of step in and kind of play a role for a team right away. And he could play some good minutes for a team. And that's kind of one of those things that when you're picking high, you usually want someone. You're taking a guy who has a ton of potential, and you're a low lottery team, or you're going to be terrible, so you're just going to give some guy who maybe is very, very raw a bunch of run. And for Portland, they're in a spot where they want to compete, and so a guy like Collins, he can kind of step in and help them do the things that they need to at a position that they really need it. I mean, if you think about the two things that Portland needs right now, is they, depending on kind of how you're feeling about Vonleh is, a pretty good defender, but offensively has struggled hitting the outside shot, and offensively, he's pretty good in the transition, but he hasn't really shown any progression to kind of take that next step offensively. And so, if you can bring in a guy who can, take a little bit of pressure off of Dame and CJ, and when Nurkic goes out, you still have somebody who can play a little inside-outside game and stuff. I think that he could step in and do those things right away, and that's definitely something that would help the Blazers next year. And that's a really big thing. The window for Dame and stuff is, it's really open right now. It's kind of at the beginning of it, so you don't want to waste a bunch of time 4 years down the road waiting for a guy to develop. So I think he kind of fits the timeline of what the Blazers are looking for.
Yeah, I think his floor is a good backup center, and Portland needs a backup center. So even if he doesn't pan out, I still think he'd be a rotation player and still be a key part of the team. His ceiling would be that starting four next to Nurkic, and I just like his fit as a backup five, and then growing into that power forward role for the same reasons. Like I like Patton and Pasekniks as a 4-5 hybrid. The dream is that Collins falls to 15, or at least that's my dream. I know some people aren't as high as him, but I do think there's a chance he could fall to 15 if a couple guys go into the lottery. I know Kennard has been shooting up draft boards, and TJ Leaf is a guy I could see. Giles too. Giles, if his knees are okay, he's a guy that could go lottery too, and those guys could push Collins down to 15. But he should be available around 10 or 11. And for the same trade that I talked about trading up for Mitchell, you could do 15 and 20 or 15 and 26 up for to Charlotte for 11 or something like that, to take Zach Collins and then still have another draft pick to bring in another rookie at the back end of the first round. And I think that's a good scenario, bringing in two rookies, one of them being somebody like Mitchell or Collins, a lottery talent, and then taking a flyer on a guy at the end of the first round.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and make a little bit of a prediction. What is your prediction for what the Blazers do? Do you think they draft 3 players, or do you think that they make a trade of some sort?
Oh, man. With their pre-draft workouts working out a lot of second-round guys, that says to me that they're probably going to trade at least 2 of the picks. because Olshey said he's not going to want to bring in 3 rookies, but he's worked out a ton of second-round picks, so it makes me think he's going to trade up. I don't think they're going to do a salary cap dump like a lot of people are saying. It just makes no sense. The only way to get cap space would be to trade Turner, Crabbe, and Leonard, and Davis, and Aminu. You'd have to trade almost half the team, and I just don't think that's feasible. So it may be wishful thinking, but I do think that they'll trade up to somewhere like New York at 8. Maybe including Harkless. I think New York would be high on Harkless. So I guess that's my prediction, is they're going to trade 15, 20 Harkless, maybe 26 as well, up to New York, and take I don't know, maybe one of the small forwards falls. So that's wishful thinking, but I do think they'll trade up to 7 or 8 and then buy a second rounder. So they'll get a mid-lottery talent and a second-round pick. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think that they're going to move up either way, given that the price is okay. You know, it's not going to be too expensive to move up. I think either they move up into that, Collins range, kind of that 10, or they move up a little bit further into that 7-8 range. I think getting one of the 3 small forwards, and it sounds like Jackson's pretty much off the board. He may even go number 2 now. It's kind of what that Ball may not even be the number 2 pick, and maybe Jackson at number 2. So I think that between, if they can pull out one of either Isaac or Tatum, I think it's you'd be happy with that. If you give up Harkless or Aminu or one of those guys plus your picks, and you come away with Tatum or Isaac, then I think you walk away happy with this draft, especially if you can pick up a second rounder or 2, and maybe take a flyer on a couple guys. Then I definitely think that's a win for Portland.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's hard to formulate a prediction for what Neil Olshey is going to do, because he always seems to have tricks in his back pocket, and he always seems to do moves that nobody's expecting. So I've been spending the past week or so trying to think about what I would predict for him to do in the draft, and I still have really no idea.
All right, so I think that'll do it. That's 3 episodes for the Portland draft breakdown. We covered pick number 15, pick number 20, and pick number 26, and then we also talked a little bit of what the Blazers may do if they decide to move up. So, we're less than a week away. What's today? Today is Saturday. The draft is on Thursday. So,
5 days away.
5 days away. So we've already had one trade with the draft. Unofficially, but official, is the number 1 pick has been traded to Philadelphia. So Fultz is headed to Philadelphia. I don't know if you saw any of the pictures from his workout, but they had Embiid and Simmons and Embiid, because if you ever want a player to follow, Joel Embiid is one of those guys that you want to follow. But he had a picture of Covington himself, Fultz, and Simmons, and he goes, "This is going to be amazing." And he had pictures. He had a picture of Fultz. They made a locker for him in the Philadelphia locker room, and when Fultz was walking in the locker room, he had a Philadelphia hat on. So, yeah. So it sounds like it's pretty much a done deal. So, but good for Boston. I think it's going to be a good trade for them. They're gonna looks like they're gonna get the Laker pick unprotected. They're gonna get the number 3 pick this year, and possibly a protected pick that is owed from Sacramento to Philadelphia. So no real word on what those terms are for that protected pick. So. There's a lot out there, and I think that it's just kind of the beginning. I think this is going to be a domino for maybe a couple other things. The Kings having pick 5 and 10 makes things interesting for them, because they can move around, and they definitely got some holes that they need to fill, and they need top end talent. They don't necessarily maybe want 5 and 10. Maybe they try to move up with Boston. Lakers. Worked out Ball for a second time, and still sounds like maybe they're kind of moving off of Ball. So a lot of interesting things. Probably a lot of smoke screens at this point. No one really knows what's real and what's not. What's coming out from an agent, and what's a GM is trying to put out there to try to drive someone's value up or down, or what's going on. So.
Yeah, I thought this would be the easiest top five to be able to tell in years, and all of a sudden it's crazy. You have no idea what's going to happen. So it'll be a fun draft night.
Yeah, I think that there's no question now what the number one pick will be. It will be Fultz. Uh, I think that it's really going to be interesting to kind of see what direction Boston is going in. Whether they are going to, are they going to stay, with the number 3 pick? Are they going to try to move it for an all-star, like a George or a Butler or something like that? They have cap space to be able to sign a big name free agent, a max free agent. So, are they going to try to do that? And try to make a run now while Cleveland and the Warriors are still on top, or are they going to try to just kind of continue to kick it down the road a little bit and keep drafting these guys and wait for 4 or 5 years down the road?
I do think they should definitely go for it. I do think they can reach that level if they sign a Hayward or something. They have the draft picks. They have the good players already. I just like the idea of keeping some top draft picks and trading one for maybe somebody like Paul George, so that you do have the super team starting lineup, but also have really, really good young players to keep them relevant for the next 10 years, 12 years or so.
Yeah, and it's really funny because, if they end up keeping all of these picks, next year they could have two, depending on how well the Lakers do. They could have two more top 5 picks or 2 more top 3 picks because they have the New Jersey pick still and they have the Laker pick. So if they keep those, they could still be adding 2 more top level talents next year if everything falls. The luck of the Irish. I don't know what Danny Ainge is doing. I don't know. He's made some great decisions. I will say, I was looking at his drafts, and I don't think he has his draft. He hasn't drafted an all-star yet. None of his draft picks have been an all-star. So maybe his draft record isn't the best, but his building of a team, obviously with the super team with Pierce and Garnett and Ray Allen, and then when he decided to dismantle that team and get the picks from New Jersey, he's made all the right moves to kind of keep the team. They're obviously they won the East, but yet they still have all these top picks. So he's done a good job of building that team.
Yeah, that trade with Brooklyn was maybe the best trade in NBA history. Getting 4 of Brooklyn's picks unprotected, 3 at the top of the draft, and now they took one of those picks and multiplied it into 3 and 2 more future top 10 picks. Like he's just multiplying assets and assets. And Isaiah Thomas was a steal of a trade. He barely gave up anything for Isaiah Thomas. So yeah, he's been the best GM in the league the past 5 years or so.
Yeah. All right. So that'll do it for here. I don't know. I think things are going well. So maybe we'll talk after the draft and we'll see kind of where the Blazers sit at. Unfortunately, I'm going to be headed to Atlanta, so I don't know that.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in Atlanta on draft day. I was going to try to do a live show on draft day, and I still might be able to. I got a couple things out to maybe be able to do something on draft night, but. If not, we'll definitely catch back up after the draft, talk about what the Blazers did, and kind of, free agency is just right around the corner. What is it, like 2 weeks away? So, July 1st is the start of free agency. Off season is well underway at this point, and before you know it, summer league will be here, and then it'll be the doldrums before camp starts.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right. We'll catch you guys later.
All right, see you.